My name is Eric Kincherling. I'm based in the Denver area, and I am a global solutions architect. I've been with Equinix for about 9 years. And today I'm joined by Malcolm Ferguson, who's been a tremendous partner of mine as we've gone through this hybrid cloud and GreenLake and PC for AI journey. He is a hybrid IT distinguished technologist from HPE, and I want to give him just a minute here to introduce himself. Malcolm?
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I've been with Hewlett Packard Enterprise for over 15 years. I was a customer for 15 years prior, going all the way back to the Compaq and other key vendors. So I have a background in cloud and co-location. I used to work for a company called Terramark, which was in the data center business, and they were acquired by Verizon Business, and now all those data centers turned over to Equinix. So I've been in a lot of the Equinix facilities for a long time, and I actually helped introduce and bring cloud to co-location over 15 years ago. And so for the past 5 years or so, I've helped bring co-location to the GreenLake cloud. So that's the discussion we're going to really focus on today, and especially how AI now is changing that landscape.
And Malcolm's exactly right. We're going to start off by talking about HPE's private cloud for AI offering, what it is, and then we're going to jump into how you can connect those footprints with various data sources using things like the Equinix Fabric, our massive ecosystem of interconnection here at Equinix. And then we're also going to talk about some of the data integrations that we can do with HPE's data fabric. We know that as we deploy these AI workloads, you cannot leave the data interconnection story out of that. So we're going to go through that. And we're also going to cover some real world use cases from some customers that we've engaged with as a partnership to talk about how we've deployed some of these workloads for customers. And so with that, Malcolm, do you want to just jump right in and let's talk about what is PC for AI? How does it fit into the GreenLake portfolio? And how can customers consume this? And why should they do it at Equinix?
Sure. And just to kind of level set, our company and where we're focused. So, we have been moving towards this hybrid cloud strategy for a long time. Most of our customers are not all in a public cloud or multiple public clouds. They still have a need for a private cloud environment, either in their own data center, but more and more in a co-location facility because they're getting out of the data center business. So we have a hybrid cloud portfolio and we have an AI portfolio that kind of sit side by side under the GreenLake cloud umbrella. So GreenLake is a cloud experience, but for private infrastructure and software. So for years, we've had GreenLake growth where we have billions of our customers have purchased, many of our customers purchased billions of our infrastructure running in a private environment. A lot of that is VM as a service, containers as a service, compute or storage or networking as a service. But now with AI, we have this huge growth, and we've had over 8 billion in new AI system orders in the past year and a half, where customers are trying to build out their own private AI platforms. So whether it's an AI factory or an inferencing system for leveraging an existing large language model, that's where private cloud AI comes into play. So I'm going to first of all kind of talk a little bit about, there's going to be a combination of these workloads. And that's where the data fabric is so critical and the network to connect everything. And that's the beauty of the partnership with Equinix is that is where these workloads belong. They belong in co-location adjacent to the as-a-service systems and data or public cloud systems and data that need to be ingested. And GreenLake, by the way, we just had our earnings announcement. We grew GreenLake just this past year 47%. So it's working. Customers like that private choice and not to be all in a shared space where there's more disruption. So the visual I want you to have here is not just PCAI over there on the right necessarily, but PCAI plus, right? Plus a customer's ERP, which could be their SAP environment, plus a private cloud that's next to their ERP, where all the core applications and traditional databases are Oracle, SQL, MySQL, you name it. Plus backup and DR, right? You're going to have backup and DR for these workloads. So with GreenLake, we have over 70 different offerings that we can offer privately in a private Equinix cage, fully managed by HPE. So this is a wonderful partnership where our customers, either existing Equinix customers or customers that are moving out of the data center they've owned for 20 plus years because it's too expensive to upgrade, especially for AI workloads, they can pick from these multiple workloads, and they can also bring in third-party hardware and software. So it's not an all or nothing. This is a very flexible solution here. And all the GreenLake workloads have buffer. So that means there's growth that's ready to be consumed real time in these cages for the compute, for the storage, for the networking.
Can you talk a little bit about the sizing of these workloads? If a customer is interested in deploying these, can you give us some commentary around how big these physical deployments are and what kind of AI or ML workloads are suited to each sizing of those deployments?
Sure. So, first of all, I will jump into what is PCAI? What does it look like? So, PCAI is an appliance, and here's a picture of a initial or small PCAI. We have multiple sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. And depending on the size, there's a certain GPU that's part of the solution. And there's a certain amount of storage that's included with the solution. So the GPU nodes can increase in numbers and the speed of the GPU, and then the storage would scale. And so PCAI was a joint development that we wrapped up about a year ago with NVIDIA. And the design includes NVIDIA high-speed networking. There's Spectrum-X switches. It includes an Aruba management network and an HPE management cluster, a 3-node management cluster. And then you have the actual GPU-based systems, the ProLiant servers with the GPUs inside, and the storage. So what we do is we sit with a customer and we first of all want to understand, what do you plan on hosting on this appliance for inferencing? How many users are going to access the appliance? That really does determine the sizing of the solution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for that information. Now, one of the things on this slide in particular that you've mentioned is the PC for AI Cloud Console. And this is one of the questions that I've had because I've not actually taken a look at what this console looks like. Can you help explain for our audience why that cloud console is so important? Because I know there are a lot of technologies that go into this hardware and software stack, but I want you to help us understand what the differentiator between this solution is versus some of the other competition. And I hope I'm leading you a bit here because that cloud console, I think, is very powerful.
The system is a self-service appliance for the administrators of the system, as well as the consumers, the data scientists of the system, who want to go start building, virtual assistants and any type of generative AI type of application. I'm going to go through some examples of those. So the console is very, very simple to use, easy to use. You can use the integrated components and software that we have added, like the NVIDIA AI Enterprise software, but also the HPE AI Essentials and Data Fabric. It's very flexible. You can add all your favorite either NVIDIA or third-party tools and software. The actual use cases at our own company that we've leveraged with the system, and one great one is our own company's Chat HPE. So I use Chat GBT every single day. I mean, that is just something I leverage consistently, way more than Google now. And this system, first of all, can integrate with OpenAI and Chat GBT, but it can also leverage your own company's private data using that portal, using that console, or either through the APIs, and you can go build your own company's private chat system. So there, you all at Equinix, for example, could build a chat Equinix that all your employees could use to help understand your customers better, right? Ask questions about your business. We have over 10,000 employees at HPE that use our own internal PCAI deployments that are hosting all of these different solutions, whether it's Chat HPE or tools for our managed services team to use. So we can plug in all our customer data, all our supply chain data, all our legal and compliance data. So the main thing about this appliance from HPE and NVIDIA, again, is the fact that we can transform our business with AI using it. So we can transform our marketing department, our sales department, our operations department, HR, finance. All of these departments are dying for using generative AI to help automate and speed up their business unit. And well, that means I need a system to deliver that for my data scientists to go build these applications on and host them privately behind the firewall, because it's going to be tapped into our ERP data, right? Our most critical private secure data is going to be leveraged to make these applications work. So that's the beauty of private cloud AI, is you can run it wherever you want, but ideally you're going to run it in a cloud adjacent colocation like Equinix, because now you can tap into the external data. So our appliance here is using what's called the Emerald Data Fabric, or the HPE Data Fabric. And that is the glue for connecting all your data. And it actually goes back to an acquisition we made from a company called MapR. And MapR has been used for a very long time for many, many companies like American Express, for example. That data fabric is the core data foundation for that consistent data access across all your assets and formats. And it actually can also encrypt the data end to end. So the visual you need to have here is customers have large data lake houses. They have forever. And typically they run that privately, not in the public cloud, all in the public cloud, but in a private cloud format. And so now if I put a PCAI in the mix, that needs to be low latency connected to the data lakehouse. It also needs low latency connectivity to external AI data sources so that the appliance can do its job for delivering all those applications to the business. So our own company has PCAI running in colocation using high-speed colocation fabric services to talk to Azure, to talk to OpenAI, right? Those external data sources can now be federated in through something like our data fabric to make the PCAI a success.
You're exactly right, Malcolm. And why location matters is very, very important. As you mentioned, having those data sources like data fabric in a position where the customer can quickly integrate data sources is going to be very, very important. And one of the contrasts we like to look at here, I know you're a huge fan of the fabric, right, is putting this private cloud for AI investment inside of Equinix allows the enterprise customer to quickly pivot and integrate data sources within a matter of minutes. And what this allows our customers to do is bring this deployment into a time to value that is very, very short, so that those AI ML business owners can give results back to the stakeholders at the enterprise in a very timely manner. And in the end, what this is going to result in is budgets won't be questioned and scrutinized, whereby, an executive might say, we've spent all of this money on this investment, but we're not seeing the returns that we expect. We're not seeing the business decisions come from this that we expect. And this is really how, when we talk about lowering latency and bringing the data as close as possible to these AI workloads, that's where lowering latency and a smart network topology can really produce very rapid business outcomes. And so in this model, what we want to demonstrate is that not only can Equinix integrate with a lot of WAN providers to get data integrated from a corporate data center, but we can also integrate with a lot of public models and a lot of data fabric models, or a lot of data fabric underlays to incorporate those data models. And I'll just stop there. Can you help us understand, Malcolm, when you have this conversation with your customers and you're espousing the power of this partnership, what does the fabric mean to you, or what does this interconnection mean to you in those solutions?
Yeah, and the fabric is such a huge thing for our customers. First of all, many of our customers, they're legacy. They're running on legacy networks, right? They're still on large MPLS networks. They have either manufacturing facilities or campuses that are global. And so you have to paint that global connectivity picture with a customer on how we're going to, first of all, transform their fabric overall. And that's where the Equinix fabric is so capable. Because you have over 280 80 locations around the world with a fabric presence that you can tap into. That means most of my customers, they're going to be able to do an overlay of their business on a map like this, where we can identify, okay, fine, you're in Paris, you're in London, you're in Dallas, you're in Chicago, you're in Virginia. Not a problem. Equinix has a presence in all those places. I was just talking with a customer the other day who said, we need a presence in India. Not a problem. Equinix has multiple data centers in India. So all those data centers think of a landing point for a workload like GreenLake, especially a workload like private cloud AI for GreenLake. And then you can not only connect your business in all those systems globally, but more importantly, you can have that last mile, low latency connection to a campus, to a headquarters, to a manufacturing facility. Because you're going to often pull in edge data that's outside of the data center to be ingested inside of these PCAI appliances. You may want to be building a system that's doing some sort of a digital twin of a manufacturing plant, say a car manufacturer. Well, you're going to want to have that platform and those GPUs nearby for doing and pulling all that data in for inferencing. This gives you that opportunity to be everywhere, but within country. And then there's also the whole compliance with data legally in parts of Europe. For example, they cannot have their data outside of a certain city or outside of a certain country. So again, that Equinix presence that's in country allows the customer to have that flexibility and meet those compliance needs.
Yeah, that's an important point. I think as we move through these opportunities with our customers and with our partners, we want to make sure that we're also remembering that Equinix is a worldwide leader in providing data centers that are heavily compliant, meaning we want the customer to feel as secure in our building as they would in their own data center, say in their own office space, or potentially just down the road from where their campuses are. And on top of that, should the customer want to certify data residency or potentially another certification as a part of their offering, say for a product to the end customer, HPE and Equinix will be there to help bring our certifications to bear for that end customer and to support those customers' certifications. And I'd be remiss if I didn't flip to a slide that demonstrates how many cloud on-ramps we have between our locations today. There are main on-ramps, again, not cloud regions specifically, right, but on-ramps to get to the cloud regions in a high throughput, low latency, and as fast or as close as possible to the PCAI workload. Why is this important? If we think about how our partners in the cloud think about private interconnection, they want to prefer that private interconnection over things like direct link or express route or the various options from our other vendors here on this map. Why do they want that? Because we've seen through pricing models that when we transfer a lot of data over an internet connection from the cloud, those costs can get very expensive very quickly. And as you heard Malcolm mention earlier, we're going to be using data fabric as a part of this. We're going to be using data in the cloud as a part of this integration. And so if we aren't thoughtful about how we're doing that connection to the cloud and to our campuses, e.g. internet versus private interconnection, we may see bills that become unpredictable in the long run. And I know this is something we've talked about before, Malcolm, but can you tell us a story about potentially a customer who's gotten that cloud bill that is just astronomical and having that discussion after the fact as opposed to planning for it ahead of time?
Sure, absolutely. We have customers that come to us all the time. Let's just say a very large retailer in the U.S. who, you know, put a lot of their SAP data in the public cloud, and they had multiple regions and availability zones. And with a workload like SAP, you're doing a lot of replication of the data for backup and DR redundancy. And they didn't have the most optimal connectivity in and out of their cloud regions. And as a result, we were told that over their one annual cloud budget they had for a particular public cloud provider, within a few months, they burned up the annual budget due to egress billing. So absolutely, egress billing can kill you if you don't plan your connectivity appropriately. Now, that customer has since repatriated and moved a lot of those workloads to co-location as a more proper way and a better way to reduce the connectivity costs, because co-location has the best connectivity, world-class, like the Equinix fabric. And then if you take a data fabric and do it as an overlay, right, you need some sort of a data platform for your file, your object data, your databases, the streaming of all that data to flow and connect through. And that's where our MapR-based data fabric, which again, American Express, BMW, right? Many companies, large companies have been running on it for years, hundreds of petabytes of data that they use on our data fabric, file data, object data, traditional databases. And then you have access to the data through traditional either S3 or NFS, all kinds of access for the data scientist and the folks using the data, including PCAI, to tap into. And this is an end-to-end encrypted data platform too. So it's designed to run at the edge, the far edge, outside of the data center, flow through an Equinix Fabric colocation, say, environment, as well as all the way to the public cloud. So it's a true hybrid data fabric that is a perfect match for the Equinix fabric to power it and host it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we had a question come in just now that talked about what the technicals of this looks like from a connectivity perspective. And I'm just going to take a swing at this really quickly and unpack some of the technicals so that our audience knows exactly how to guide these conversations. So when we talk about connecting to a HPE environment, and I'm going to use, Malcolm, the hosted trial here as a example because we have a high level diagram. What we're talking about is a private off internet, that is to say a connection that is going to use private peering. When we talk about private peering, that's on 10.IP space or 192 IP space. It is not using a public route at all. So if this were a private cloud for AI deployment at Equinix and it was connected to our fabric, the fabric is going to serve as a layer 2, that is a VLAN based interconnection platform to any other destination that is also on the fabric. And this could be network service providers. This could be to the hyperscalers, that is the cloud vendors. They all offer private layer 2 interconnection handoffs. Or it could also be to other customers or other ecosystem participants within the Equinix global landscape. And so, for example, you heard Malcolm talk about an automotive customer that was looking to integrate potentially with some other data sources. Should that customer, say, want to integrate with perhaps a manufacturer of their parts, for example, as a internal supply chain AI type of integration for better supply chain management, we can do that on private interconnection. And what does this do for us, right? You heard Malcolm again mention that privacy and security and residency are of a paramount priority for our customers. The fabric is going to enable that from a networking perspective. And for the the people out there who want to know speeds and feeds, we can provide all of that information. We can go as fast as, in some cases, 100 gig if it's in metro. We can also do very, very particularly sliced VLANs if they have a use case for, say, something that's maybe lower throughput for, say, control plane, but then they want higher throughput for data. We can accommodate that as well. And we also accommodate large frame sizing. That's going to be very, very important to these customers as they use the MapR technology that underlays this data fabric. And so I hope that answers the question. And thank you for asking that question about the networking details there in chat. And speaking of, Malcolm, these hosted trials, we have a program running here at Equinix for 7 metros globally. Would you be able to talk a little bit about how a customer like BMW or American Express enters into the hosted trial and what the expectations of the hosted trial are?
Sure. So this project started initially as a deployment of our private cloud enterprise solution. So PCE, or Private Cloud Enterprise, is another appliance that's designed for private cloud workloads like VMware as a service, or a container as a service, or bare metal as a service. We also are now offering our own hypervisor, VM Essentials, as a service. And so essentially, this is where the traditional applications and databases and data run, say, adjacent to a GPU-based workload like an AI factory or an inferencing solution like private cloud AI. So the cages are designed to where a customer has their own rack of private cloud just for them. It's not a multi-tenant private cloud experience. It's a dedicated private cloud in a shared Equinix cage that is owned and managed by HPE and Equinix. And so there's space in the cage for growth for another customer who wants their own private cloud in that particular region. The cage is ready. The core network is ready. So it really speeds the implementation because of that presence is already there. It's all piped into the Equinix fabric, ready to go. So we have multiple offerings that we offer in these cages. A fully managed private cloud enterprise solution, which, again, being fully managed, it's a higher end solution. Kind of a less managed, more simple private cloud is our private cloud business edition. And then now, of course, an AI inferencing platform like Private Cloud AI. Customers can get one or many of these solutions. They can also cross-connect our cage to, say, their own cage in the same data hall or data center, where they may want to have third-party equipment. Legacy customer could be in the building and they're like, we already have our cage here. I want to expand into some GreenLake in the building. Fine. Do that expansion in the pre-deployed private cloud cages at Equinix, and then you can retain your assets in your own private cage and just do a simple cross-connect to get to it.
And one last thing we want to cover here, Malcolm, as we wrap our session is, let's understand how these customers specifically, and I know you have a few examples here you're going to cover, how they have specifically experienced this journey. And if you could just fill us in the details of some of the potential hurdles they faced and how we overcame those through this partnership.
Sure. So, one of the workloads we mentioned that is pre-deployed in Equinix in those 7 regions is, again, Private Cloud Enterprise. And I just wanted to highlight a customer, Danfoss, who is consuming Private Cloud Enterprise in Equinix as a fully managed GreenLake service. And so, the customer solution is actually a combination of the infrastructure, of course, the compute, the storage, the networking, just almost identical to what Private Cloud AI looks like. It has a management cluster included. And then it's being hosted, in this case, in 2 different Singapore data centers. And so those are HPE, provisioned cages and managed cages where the Private Cloud Enterprise is deployed. And the customer has a full self-service experience. We acquired a company called Morpheus Data, which is a hybrid cloud management leader. And so our PCE has always had Morpheus embedded in it for that self-service experience. and customers can manage and provision the virtual machines, containers, bare metal, all through that self-service portal. And so they're consuming this private cloud similar to a public cloud experience, but it's private, it's secure, it's behind their firewalls in private Equinix cages. Another company actually in Australia is called Woolworths, and Woolworths is one of the largest grocers. They have over 1,000 stores across the country, and they have a payment system called WPay that processes more than 80 plus billion in credit card payments annually, and it runs on a system called Nonstop, which is it's a proprietary system that HP has had for decades. And it's called Nonstop because it's meant to never stop. It has 100% uptime guarantee. And they can't run that in a public cloud, right? So they wanted a private, secure environment for their WPay, for their traditional private cloud workloads. Obviously, AI can run alongside these solutions. So we have a very, very good story with Woolworths and meeting their challenge to exit their legacy data centers and move into a cloud experience with Equinix. One more use case, again, is one of the largest multinational professional services firms. And this company had legacy data centers and wanted to do a refresh of their private cloud applications and data, but didn't want to be in the data center business anymore. And this includes not just traditional private clouds, but AI workloads as well. And so we were able to, similar to Danfoss, deliver a full Morpheus-powered private cloud experience, compute, storage, networking, cabinets, everything, right? The Equinix cages in 2 cities. And we established connections from their old data centers to the new Equinix facilities for the migration. And they also had existing management tools and orchestration and network requirements that were needed. And that's not a problem. What's great about GreenLake with Equinix, it's very flexible. The customer had NVIDIA DGX systems that weren't going anywhere. Not a problem. Provision space and a rack for those to land in. They're using existing, ITSM or orchestration or third-party networking. Not a problem. Most of our GreenLake with Equinix customers have that requirement, and it's totally supported. So if they've got existing cloud management layers or ITSM, that can easily federate into the GreenLake environment, again, whether it's private cloud or AI-based solutions. And then again, the GreenLake is fully managed for the customer. We do the incident management, the problem management, the change management. We monitor, we can integrate with their security systems. So you're checking a lot of compliance and security and regulatory boxes here that you just don't get into an all public experience or landscape.
Yeah, this is perfect. And I'm so glad that you presented these. I think what we're seeing here is this partnership between HPE and Equinix can go as deep and complex as the customer wants. And we know these conversations are going to be very nuanced. And what I would say to our audience here is don't hesitate to bring us in. As you can see, these workloads are not just about putting something into colo. It's not just about buying servers. This is about a full stack, top to bottom operationalization of a investment where we can, through this partnership again, provide a full stack, a fully integrated experience that is very tight on return on investment. And so I want to say thank you again, Malcolm, for your time today.
Sure. Thank you. I really appreciate you all hosting me today.
Absolutely. And with that, we're out.